I'm Allendale's chief meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at your midday weather update. Surface analysis shows that we've got some action pushing across Iowa well in advance of a frontal boundary. The frontal complex is just now crossing the Missouri River, moving from Nebraska into Iowa. The best precipitation to this point actually has been in northern parts of Missouri. We saw some thunderstorms get way out in advance of the front in Iowa, and as such, they have fallen apart or will be soon. We really need to watch the area back in western Iowa late this afternoon into this evening for another flare-up of thunderstorm action, and some of it could be strong. The low is still farther north, just now moving into west central parts of Minnesota. We think this front's going to pick up a little bit of speed as it goes through the day tomorrow, and still should be on track to impact the eastern part of the Corn Belt into Friday afternoon, Friday night. By early Saturday morning, everything will be off to the east. We still like the bigger precipitation amounts over the western Corn Belt, up to an inch of rain, generally speaking. Now, that does not, and I repeat, it does not include what we see out of some heavier thunderstorms, and I do think there will be some out there, no doubt about it. But to go out and say that everybody could see up to 2 inches, just not the best way to play this. So a quarter to 1 full inch totals over the western belt as this system moves east, loses a lot of its punch, a lot of its moisture, such that as it moves across Indiana and Ohio, I'd be surprised if we saw more than a few tenths, generally speaking, unless, again, we saw some heavier thunderstorms fire off. This is just the first out of a series of systems that will be moving across the entire Corn Belt. Have another big cluster that tries to rip through as we finish out the weekend, going from Sunday on into early Monday. That system looks like it could have some fairly serious thunderstorms with them, maybe some strong action in the central and eastern Corn Belt, Illinois, Indiana, showing some very heavy totals in there with thunderstorms. Right now I'm going half to 1.5 inch range coverage, about 80% of the Corn Belt. And again, we're going to keep our eyes open for some 2 inch or better rains over parts of Indiana and Illinois with those thunderstorms. A third system meanders through next week, probably Wednesday through Thursday into early Friday. That system also has some half to 1.5 inch rain potential, but its range will be about 70% coverage. I like the heaviest rains out of that system to be down in Missouri, southern parts of Illinois, moving into the Ohio River Valley. The rest of the Corn Belt, general showers, lower rainfall totals. Honestly, you get up into the upper Midwest, we may not see much rain at all out of that third system. The extended forecast window shows another system around the 14th, 15th, but it's not nearly as big as it used to be 2-3 days ago. We had a concern that that's the way it was going to go. We're kind of glad we thought about it that way. Still, though, chance of rain, the good front coming through, and what that means is we're going to continue this pattern. Yes, there will be breaks in between systems, but they're not exceptionally big breaks. And so I think overall, for crop that's in the ground, it's a pretty decent forecast pattern. Crop that still needs to get into the ground, probably going to be seeing some nervousness going forward. As we move down into the deep south for soybeans down there in the ground, growing nicely. Not a lot of rain as we go through the end of this week and weekend. Late next week, I think we're going to be seeing a big system work through, and it could kick off a wetter period for the middle of the month of June. The hard red winter wheat area, something we're watching very, very closely. This frontal complex that we mentioned already, pushing rain into the western Corn Belt. The front from that still meanders through parts of Nebraska to low pressure in western parts of Kansas. I'm going to watch that very, very closely as we go through tonight. I think we could see some strong thunderstorms fire off along and north of I-70, some severe weather there. What we're seeing here, though, is as we go through the next couple of weeks, in general, we're seeing most of the heavier rains stay north in the plains, north in hard red winter wheat areas, allowing for a slight bit of dry down or better dry down potential in Oklahoma, Texas, and even southern parts of Kansas. Now, next week we do see good rains Monday through Tuesday from Kansas down into Texas. About 60% coverage there. The front will be significant, but not harbor a lot of moisture or cold air change. Rain totals, I think, over our hard red winter wheat areas, probably half to 1 inch there next week. Going north up into hard red spring, scattered showers is mainly the way we're going to be playing this. Heavier rain totals as we go through the later stages of next week. Maybe 70% coverage as we go through Thursday and Friday. And we also want to bring up the Canadian prairies. You know, a lot's been made about the frost hitting canola areas up there. Well, on the wheat side or row crop side in general, It's an east versus west affair. Did some looking at some graphs and just some seasonal climate patterns up over parts of Saskatchewan, and the difference between what we see in central and eastern Manitoba versus central and eastern Saskatchewan is huge. Some places in Saskatchewan haven't had rain going all the way back into, I'd say April at least, and they are looking at deficits at about 3 inches or so. And it's starting to make some headlines there. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Currently, we don't see any precipitation of any size short term, but the GFS model does hint at maybe a decent rain producer for eastern Alberta and Saskatchewan as we head toward mid-month. That's the way things are stacking up. Have a great rest of your day. If you've got any questions on the weather, give us a call at Allendale. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.